Hi folks, Shane here again, your fitness and wellness program coordinator. This week's Healthy at Home fitness tip is all about mobility and movement. So we've heard about flexibility, which is our ability to take our joints to an end range of motion and to passively hold ourselves there, where today we're going to focus on mobility, which is more about moving into positions, going through a range of motion, maybe under load, but comfortably getting back out of it and having the most range of motion in each of those joints involved. And so today what we're going to do is start from the bottom and move our way up. So we're going to go from feet, ankles, knees, hips, thoracic spine, and then move into our shoulders as well. So I'm going to go through a few options for you. Most of these are going to be body weight. If you do have a band, that's awesome. I'm going to show you a couple options like that as well. We'll go through a couple distraction techniques. We'll go through a couple just range of motion movements called movement flows. And then I'll show you some different things that you can do just to either increase mobility or to maintain it and make yourself feel a little bit more fluid throughout the day. So follow along and watch some of these examples. First, we'll start with our ankles and toes. We can work on some rotation exercises as well as some curling exercises, pulling towels in close. We can focus on the way that we walk, whether it's to the outside of our feet, inside of our feet, or working through a full range of motion from heel to toe to gain that mobility. Make sure we test out that ability to raise our toes up the sky, something we don't always do, but definitely affects our mobility along the way. If you have a band to use, you can also attach this inside your foot and make sure that arch is in the right place and your big toe is putting enough pressure into the ground, which is what we want to focus on from this part. We can work through full ranges of motion, whether in lunge motions or hinging motions. We can then move on to focusing on more ankle mobility in that front plane, so we can hold those those small bones in the top of our ankle back while working on range of motion with our knee. We can then shift into our hips, where we work on windshield wipers. Okay, feet shoulder width apart, letting our knees fall from side to side. Bring our feet up into the air to make that a little bit more difficult, all the while making sure our shoulders stay nice and level. We can then make this more difficult if we need to and more progressive by doing shin boxes seated, if we can keep our back nice and neutral. We can then progress that into a full range of motion, a full set of movements, into a lunge, and then transitioning back to that start position, rotating back down to the ground, and then sitting back up to the opposite side. We can work on some activation for our glutes by laying on the ground and creating a small hinge with our feet and driving our glutes to the sky. Working on external rotations in a squat position is a great idea, whether by band or with body weight exercises. We can also do this isometrically, putting our arms inside and our arms outside to squeeze against and create some pressure. We can do this for our hip flexors as well, laying on our back, keeping our hips straight and our back neutral, and driving our knee into our hands, and then getting more range of motion, moving more, testing those angles out as well. We can then move into thoracic rotation with our hips in charge. So locked in, we're going to focus on trying to reach our shoulders towards the ceiling while maintaining that stance. And then if we need some help to create that movement inside that joint and get it in the right place, we can use bands and distraction techniques to drive that femur back into the joint capsule. We can also do things like this to make sure we're in the right position and our back doesn't react to our movements in our hips and our knees. As we transition up the spine a little bit further, we can work on thoracic, lower thoracic, and lumbar rotation. So sitting on our butt, back on our heels with our elbows to our knees, work on rotating our elbows towards the sky, and we can also take that into a quadruped position to bring it a little bit further up the thoracic spine. We can test out a few more ranges of motion as long as our hips are in check, and we're focusing mostly on that rotation with control. We can then do some T reaches, so we can put our knee up on a foam roller or on the ground, work on reaching straight across our body or up overhead, adding our shoulders into the mix, but still getting that rotation nice, slow, and controlled. Shoulders, we can also use flossing techniques, rotating our hands inside and outside to test those nerves and the way they're functioning. We can then bring ourselves back to that quadruped position and work on creating some range of motion while controlling our posture. So reaching our arm all the way around the top of our body, staying nice and high with that shoulder blade, just keeping that hand off of our body and then reaching back to the beginning. We can work on mobilizing those scapula or those shoulder blades as well, doing forward and reverse rotations while trying to keep our spine nice and neutral, really keeping our elbows locked. Scapular retractions or shoulder blade retractions are great as well. So push-up position or quadruped, pushing our shoulders through. Internal and external rotations would be a next step. Locking our elbows in, using a wall as a guide, rotating upward, outward, and inward if we can. And then also working on that overhead press technique while keeping our core tight and the muscles inside our shoulder blades, our rotator cuffs nice and locked in.
You'll notice that a lot of these techniques are adopted from disciplines like Pilates, yoga, and different martial arts. Those are all great options to improve your mobility while you're at home. If you like this tip and you want to see some more, make sure you sign up for our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and you check in for our next videos as they come. Stay healthy at home, folks.